Well, hello there. Feel moved to talk about that story that was manufactured and found its way around Twitter about that guy who used to be the CEO of Twitter being found with like child porn on his computer, and somebody looking to put out a report as to say this guy's like been arrested, he's a wanted man, and it was just a satire. Okay, the familiarity of that as a rug pull is like it just hit me as this is where we are now, is it? A rug pull, and you'll call it satire. So you deliberately smear somebody in the open, and then when somebody says, "Hey, hang on a minute," you say, "Oh, it's just a joke, mate. Isn't it obvious?" Excuse me? Yeah, you just haven't got a sense of humour, have you? It's like that rug pull is a form of bullying. I call it gotcha. And it's a matter of, I never let anyone get away with that around me. Ever. So if someone wants to play gotcha with me, I just give them the look. And the look is to go, really, you're playing gotcha with me? Because if you know you're playing gotcha, immediately it's just a game and it's time to escalate on this person. And so, well, I can make shit up too. I was talking to a friend of yours who, I'm not saying, I'd like to hide their identity, says you're a bit of a cunt, says you've got some real secrets to hide. And like, yeah, we can all do that, we can all fathom or create an anonymous source who we're going to protect, and we can use the power of a triangulated attack as to, you don't know who may have said this. Yeah, we can play games like that all fucking day. It's actually funny if you know it's a game. It's like the games that fucking psychopaths play. Some people are like all sat around together as fucking psychopaths who mouth off like that. And it's actually very funny if you know that's what you're doing. Someone's made a conscious attempt to attack satire by using, basically sinning with the word, bearing false witness, deliberately, and calling it satire. Now, the thing is with satire is there's a grain of truth, but you can call it satire and say to you that's funny, and therefore it's funny. I've seen this used in the past before to attack and stifle free speech, where you'll find that something from nowhere comes in, a false piece of news, and then it's like a newspaper will print a load of lies, and then a judgment will be made that impacts us. Fucks with our world. Reminds me a lot of that, like a deliberate act to stoke up chaos. And it's like properly called what it is, right? So that's not satire, mate. You're deliberately spreading malicious. Because what is the upside of doing that? Who fucking thinks like that? To do that as well, there are some that do, understanding that they can simply get the reaction they've got. Of the likes of me even making a video about it. And they never know what the repercussions are going to be, but they know there's going to be some drama surrounding them, which is better than no drama at all, better than no nothing. To be seen to be doing something. It's either the work of a sick mind or someone who's, someone who's deliberately attempting to muddy the water, deliberately attempting to poison the well, and doing it in a way where they're hoping that they can cause a load of cognitive dissonance amongst those fucking simple-headed people on the left. Wait, what? It's like the reactionary edges of the left have got no resistance at all where it comes to telling them something that it suits them to believe. They will believe it. They'll react to it as if it's true. And then for it to be pulled away as a hoax, it then be, oh, obviously we were just joking. This is a satire website. Really? So rug pull, it's like the same trick as getting rich off fucking Bitcoin. Just for a moment, you convince somebody that this is legit, and then you pull the rug. Price drops. Oh well, it's your own fault. You should have done your due diligence. You should have done some more research, shouldn't you? And the investor who's just been fucking fleeced walks away saying, well, you know, there were signs. And there were plenty of people who said maybe I shouldn't do it, but I did it. I took the risk. It's on me that someone pulled the rug and just ripped me off and stole all my money. It's like forces in the world who benefit the most from the state of the regime will be those who personally benefit from the rules as they're allowed to see them now enforced based on identity. People who have it good in their own personal lives because of that situation, whether it be professional or in the relationships of all the fucking people they have around them, if it suits them, they'll keep it standing. So it's like the guardian of the SJW world is the single mother on the internet. And out in the professional world, writing blogs saying she's missing her kids when she could just stop writing and go and spend some fucking time with them. Like the female version of Odin. Odin is a man in a pub who tells tall tales about his sons, who he's separated from. That's who fucking Odin is. You've got these all-seeing fucking witches. As long as being able to maintain a false reality as they're able to do in their own households and then try to project out into the world so they feel as clever as they feel in their own households, whether they're queen bee. It's weird. I'd like to make the whole world obey me like my household does, full of my minions. Those who live in those corrupt matriarchal home structures will fight to defend the notion of the current predicament of political correctness, because the LGBT thing forgives disastrous parenthood and the feminist thing maintains that mama is in control of everything. And just how many people in their own real lives does that just fucking suit down to the ground? And it's like, yeah, there's some. It's like, and how much of a voice have they got? It's like, well, they've made it sure they're probably the only ones who really have got one. What? It's like, yeah. And it says, and do you know what? They're middle class feminist women, man haters. Basically weak man haters. They, you know, those kind of people, they tend to like rough fuckers like myself to think we're alright. But, you know, weak men that they have to put up with, they're like, it's like the war you fought to beat those weak men down, right? Projected out onto society. And now they've come for you. Yeah. The old feminist sect is no longer the arbiter of what is and isn't socially responsible or socially acceptable behaviour. That role has now been exclusively taken by the trans woman and the black woman. Untouchable. But not just untouchable in public life, also untouchable in private life, in the real world. No one can do nothing to them. Badly written laws, compounded by other changes in things like definitions of words have actually given these people quite unique powers. Which, if you felt yourself in a situation as to where you could exploit certain privileges and get what you want, might you do it? And it's like, you might not, but there are those who would, and there always will be. It's like there's some, if you are of low character, there are some outrageous games you can play now where the law will be on your side for you to fuck with the world and mess with people, hurt people, and you always be in the right. You always be the victim. You always be, and it'd be a matter of, are you willing to lie? And that'd be it. You know, you can't win at anything, right, against an opponent that will just lie about anything and is willing to tell any lie and willing to tell any story to keep them or get themselves out of trouble. They'll muddy any water, and they can be fucking brilliant at it. They can be experts at it and be able to switch from one style of technique and manipulation to the next. Someone's guilty of sin or something, sit in front of you and in essence, in their, confession, go through every single aspect. Create 1,000 different angles as to why it's not their fault they did what they did. And be geniuses at it. It's like you're up against that guy and you're up against that guy times a few. It's like, you can't stand against that. Those who are willing to lie and then double down and then bring a mob with them, they've got all the power in the world. And it's like, it doesn't matter how much progress you think you make finding common ground with them, they'll just sign the deal and then go back on it. It's like when you're up against people who are willing to tell any lie they need to, they make a nonsense of the world you live in. It's like, in some regards, is it a blessing to me as to where in my time I have been and spent a lot of time with people of low character. To be able to tell you that there are people of low character who are capable of all kinds of lies and skullduggery. And it's a matter of, you can find tales of what people do, right, on the pages of women's magazines, but they only say the bad things that men do. They only actually tell half a story. As to where there's downright evil people of both sexes and the ones they've invented in between, who are in their everyday lives absolute tyrants, who are bullies, who get away with bullying whoever they want to bully, and always can fall back on daddy boss, daddy government, to bail them out of trouble. Real life daddy, only no good no more. Now you want corporate daddy to come and save you. Corporate daddy, enforce the rules. This one's hurt my feelings. And that be a thing that they have to take seriously. It's like a man such as myself can't even exist in a world where that's true. It's like recent times, I reach out to people quite often, and I put it to them, look, I'm a stranger, but you might find it useful to talk to me. And it's like, well, why? And it's like, you don't realise just how low the people you're up against are and what they're capable of doing. And I don't mean to frighten you, but it's like there's certain different ways of looking at the whole thing that can be helpful. And it's like James Lindsay has actually worked it out on his own, which is amazing to my mind, because I put it a good while since as to where I was quite sure actually that certain elements of things that I'd like to just show people, it's just, look, it's like, it's magic. What? Yes, you might think you were just triggered, but it's a matter of in that person who called you a racist to get a reaction from you. Like, what if that person actually knew that in that moment they had that power to throw that down and threw that down as a weapon, as a straight up magical weapon, stop it, magic card thrown out, and that be something that's an imaginary thing that can actually, real life, ruin your fucking life. And that be akin to a curse or a powerful spell. And it'd be rife. And it'd be the kids who've been raised in a world of like broken promises, right? They've had lots of spells cast on them, and it's almost how they expect to be treated, like children. They want to be promised things and then hate you as well, because that's the weird fucking pattern of behaviour that's been placed down upon them. In having grown up in a different world from the likes of me, so the technology is a massive thing. I was full grown when this technology came to infancy. So there you were. To believe a stranger over the internet, could be anybody, global, and children, and it'd be, oh my God, what's the internet done to these? And we just don't know. We're finding out as life pans on and moves on. We're finding out what the internet's done to kids, what the world is to those who've never lived in a world without it. And it's like, oh my word, how might they cope in a world without an internet? It's like, I'd be alright. I'd be immediately super useful as someone who knows a lot about a lot of things. Helpful. And not so much helpful in how to, it would be useful in what not to do. Understanding the in and outs of doing something as to where, let's rule out that idea. So it's like the internet goes down, it's like suddenly I become a high value thinker. Suddenly you need people who can think like quantity surveyors and the like. You need people like that again. You got nowhere to Google it. You're going to have to send someone to the library. Or you're going to have someone around who actually knows something to think about it for you. Well, without the internet, I don't think they can do anything. I don't think they've got much at all without the internet. Because I've seen it in people who, it's like people who are numb arses and then they found themselves as bosses. Yeah. And I invented a term, Google smart. We were talking to these guys who I was working for briefly, and they didn't know much about anything really. But they were bosses. So they had the sort of boss authority. But they didn't know much about anything, and they weren't actually that experienced in the work we were doing. It's like an industry had collapsed and then fallen into, and then the technology basically has changed it. And then basically anyone can set up that kind of business now with basically, apps like Uber apps. It's a lot more straightforward than what it was. So someone set up on their own and they're looking to recruit people with experience. And you get to talking to these guys about the ins and outs of the job and what is smart work, smart planning, and they're like, why do I need to know things like that? I'm like, excuse me? It's like, yeah, it's like Google Maps. Google. I don't even need to learn about it. I don't even need to find out. I know that it's there. I can just go and look it up. So this guy sits there in his chair, and because he knows he's got Google Earth, he thinks he doesn't need to know anything. Fucking that fella has to talk to him as to I can usually, on a psychological level, usually connect with people. And it's like, no, the world was so much of a mystery to him how it worked. It also had to be a mystery to me as well. Basically, somebody would force his level of ignorance onto you. And if you don't adhere to his level of ignorance, because he'd be in a position of arbitrary power, look to enforce it on you. So he'd basically a projecting narcissist, right? But a dumb one. A good one who's smart, who knows a lot of things. You can see eye to eye, as they say, with someone like that, because he understands that there are ins and outs of it, but he didn't know much about his own job at all. Someone who'd taken it up and done it for 6 weeks and then worked out that he didn't have to drive, he could just start his own business running it. And he'd be like, okay, so you're not a driver, you don't like driving, but you like money and you like to have power. And you like making promises that other people have to keep so you don't look a cunt. So it's like you've got people that are trained in, one of them was something like a draftsman. Job that nobody fucking needs no more. If you don't stay ahead of the times, you're out of that. Another bloke who'd been a nurse. Running a car moving and logistics company, and they didn't need to know where anything was because Google did. So they just fire your job, and it's like these are actually worse than the worst I've ever known, firing a job at you and by not understanding the geography, just looking at a map of the UK that's that big and say, oh, it's only that far up map, and saying you can do that in no time, it's only that far up map. They were worse than that. And it's like, right, okay. I say this is the right way of doing it, and you say, what makes you say that? And I say, because I've done it so many times, often, experience. And him say, well, I can find this article here written by someone none of us know who says you're wrong, so you're wrong. Excuse me? Yeah, Google would disagree with you, so you're wrong. Okay. And he'd be like, okay, so Google knows everything. It's like, why didn't you use Google when you planned this job? This makes no sense. You're sending me south at like 11:50 a.m. because you think this place is right next to the motorway. It's like, no, it's not. It's right next to the motorway down a load of fucking country roads. It's a long way away from the motorway. It's like, why have you done this? And it's like, so Google knows, and the information is allowed to stay there. That's what I'm getting at. This mindset of you can't tell me anything because I can go and look it up. It's like shit robots. It's like, I'm a decent robot. You'd send me on a mission and I'll find out as good as I can and see the job done. Because I'm the one who has to fucking turn up. Make it work. Make it happen. And I make it work, and they say, I did well there, didn't I? Planned a fucking good job there. I get paid as much as the guy who drove the job. Aren't I a clever man? And they'll come at you and they'll say, I'll make you a lot of money. It's like, will you now? It's like these Google smart people are a fucking liability. And when the day comes when the internet is like shut down for only then available for like business use, commercial use, financial use, paying bills, watching authorized stuff, when all the little shit gets shut down and it's all just Netflix and Amazon Prime and Disney Plus, and they manage to lock it all out so it's all bought and paid for, and then a matter of all that internet will be left as being like the post office in your living room. Everything all the business you need to do with the government can be done from your computer, and that's slightly all they'll leave you with. All the channels that we use, like instant messaging and the ability to put up a video like this, will be restricted and only be allowed to be used by certain people. It's future, I see. And part of that, you know, as to how that be made possible, would be the blockchain technology. That's the perfect thing. Once you integrate all the systems together, and it's a matter of, oh, yeah, right, okay. Agents in the system that are indelible, AI, face recognition, handprint, fingerprint, voice, all indelibly stored on the blockchain. It's like your crypto wallet combined with everything else in the world. Your crypto wallet, when it becomes combined with your bank account, everyone can see it's on that blockchain. And it'd be that's what they've got in store for us. They're saying, we don't really know what all the uses of this technology are going to be. And it's like, yeah, to fucking give us all our own little blockchain to indelibly put us all on this system. And it'll be a means of absolute control of how you can operate financially. Maybe even, God knows what the world might be then. It might well be then that those same powers that believe that is an attainable thing have already lost complete control of the streets. And everywhere supermarkets soon will have like super security. It's like, you notice the place become a jungle, but the places where, you know, people will, you know, need to get to have some kind of illusion of calm, be it as a matter of places that might get looted will be defended. The rest of it just left on its own. So where'd you get that from, John? It's like, this country did that between about 2007 and 2010, all the time. There's cops all over it, anywhere where there were people around, there were always cops, otherwise none on duty, none doing any police work anywhere. Number of people who actually get tugged driving and things like that dropped as almost none. And what was that? It's like, country on high terror alert. The terrorist risk is seen as high and it affects how they deploy. It also says we need to hire ourselves some agency guys, so it you know, puts an order into G4S for them to send a lot of corporate security. I was looking at, if you were to talk to me in 2010, right? 2009, 2010. My talk would be as to where this country, right, is doomed, right, because it's brainwashed, doesn't realise it. What, John? It's like, yeah, it's like it's better now with what you can openly say than it was then. We've got more freedom and freedom of speech now than we did in 2010. Definitely. Or I have. Why? Well, I've been pretty much excluded since 2010. Ask too many questions. Don't tick any boxes. White male. Get to talking. You lay that on me at any stretch of it, and I'm like, so what are we talking about here? And we're talking about this, and I cannot. It's like I can't not take the bait. Sort of thinking of it retrospectively, it's whereas the sort of things. So you know, there's a form, isn't there, that they give you when you go for a job, and you have to tick the box as to what race you are. And they say, this has no bearing on anything at all. We just click this for information. And next thing you know, it's like, it's being used as a hammer to beat someone with elsewhere. And it's like, oh, this is just data we collected. It has no bearing on And it's like, it's the only thing that's got any bearing. You think I believe anything I'm told by a government on a piece of paper they've asked me to sign? Really? It's like they're in the business of getting you to sign your life away. They're in the business of getting you to sign a piece of paper promising, guaranteeing you'll lie. You know, postman. I've done it. You see, you have to sign the Official Secrets Act to be a postman. So it's like, John, you've signed the Official Secrets Act. Yeah. When? It's like 22 years ago. It's like push comes to shove, it's like you're ordered to lie. You're ordered to lie because the truth might mean your job. And it's like when everybody lives under that, you're in a system as to where no one's actually telling anyone the fucking truth anymore out of fear. So they're telling everybody what they want to hear, and when that becomes your culture, nothing's ever getting addressed. And it's like in that world, people end up trapped, really trapped on their own. Because when you try and talk to people, it's like, no, we don't talk about things like that. We don't care if it's true or not. We don't talk about it. Don't get involved. I don't want to know your business. And people have got plenty of good reason to be like that. And being dragged into other people's trouble is terrible. Awful. Being dragged into other people's trouble is like a trap. It's harrowing. And it's like no one's signing up for it. No one signs up for the job anymore, or very few do. You find yourself difficult to deal with, right? Forget it. I don't know if anyone in despair now who's like, oh really? I mean, I'm feeling a bit sorry for myself at the moment, but I'm not just like, I'm not beyond a laugh. But there are those who are. It's like, where do they go these days? What's available for them? It's like there's I'll tell you, right? Fucking Andrew Tate, right? Of men, yeah. He's like, help them. It's like, you're not helping him. You're taking money off him. You've found a marketplace. Young guys who don't know no better. It's like you can mouth off better than anyone that they've probably met. So it's like, yeah, it's like he's like magnetic to them, and it's that. It's not that they agree with him. It's not that he gets in the no. It's that he's good at mouthing off. They're not used to being around people who are good at communicating and shit. Like he's quick, isn't he? He's a dumbass pimp, but at the same time, a good fucking pimp. As far as a matter of that, it's like I don't like him. I think he's a scammer. I think he's a pimp. But it's like he's like in that he's, you know, not a creature capable of changing his spots, but capable of filling and fitting in and doing many things and filling in many roles. As a piece of, if we were to think of him as hardware, weaponry, right? He's a piece of work that's 10 times more sophisticated than anything that the other side, you know, he's 10 times more sophisticated than anyone they could throw at him to try and discredit him or even belittle and humiliate, because that's all they got. He's actually more than they can handle. But he's a pimp. It's a thing as to where the correct label needs to be applied to the man to say he is a pimp. It's like he's a fucking good pimp. It's like you don't need to be a pimp because he has to live with certain things that you might not be able to live with. And you won't know that you can't live with him until it's past the point of no return, and then things that he can live with might kill you, might destroy you. So he's a pimp, he's like tried and tested. And it's like, in some regard, you know, you have to have some admiration for the pimp as to say, look at him, what a piece of work, what it must have taken to create that. They don't just fall from the sky. Yeah, he's like, I don't know, 100 generations of pimps. All converging into the one super pimp. When he drops his G. Drops his G. Yeah, he ain't playing games. I like it. It's like things that I suggest, right, that would be useful weapons in this great culture war. Andrew Tate uses most of them. It's like the other side's lack of a sense of humour, or any real knowledge of the self and the divinity of the human self and experience in the life. Where the deep belly laugh comes from is that the deep knowing there's something eternal about this creature. Operating from that space, right, comes the cost, doesn't it? So it's like he can operate from that space, throw it out there as to say, I am the greatest pimp who has ever lived. And that'd be, no one can get anywhere near me. I am the Mac of Macs, I am the G of Gs. And it'd be, well, yes, you are, aren't you? How many followers you now got on that Twitter? I don't count much of this, you know, subscription thing. But when you get into the millions, yeah, we're talking, aren't we? Made an impression, able to, like, almost pyramid scam himself. It's like if someone was to, and this is the thing, I've had this put to me before, and it's not something, it's something that would and wouldn't appeal to me. If someone was to take my history of making videos and cut them into specific like bits, and it'd be this bit on this and this bit on that and that bit on this, it's like a TikTok it, it's like people would know it. The way their algorithms work, which he worked out as to where he got everybody to make these little clips of things he said and then post them, and then he's got enough in his war room sort of cult for them to be able to make a massive imprint, and he worked out how to do it. So he sent his cult on a mission to make him famous by giving him all this TikTok attention. Understanding what that TikTok attention really demonstrates is influence amongst people who are under 30. That's fair to say, isn't it? It's probably averages out a lot lower, but to say under 30, the 30-year-old child, right, who's never done nothing, right? There's loads of them. I'd done loads of stuff by the time I was 30. I got scars to prove it. But there are those who've, you know, not done much. It's like, to them, it's like he might represent Last Chance Saloon. I think in some regards, from what I can now piece together from the gist of it, because it's like a lot of people try and portray him as one thing, and I've heard things, I mean, I'd heard about this guy before he'd made an imprint anywhere. To use his word. I think he said it's like he goes with teenage girls because he can imprint them. It's a matter of, you know, that's a fucking great crime and sin, that, to take someone's heart like that. For good, to pimp them. And it's like, the mess that gets left behind means, right, if you're going to be Andrew Tate, when that girl's other boyfriend, or the guy who's secretly been in love with her his entire life, right, or a father, or a brother, or a cousin comes to kill you, he's got right to. So to be him is to deal with that. And the measure of the pimp is how well you deal with that. That be your bread and butter day to day, is how you deal with repercussions. Because the business has a turnover. So it's part and parcel. Now, if you can handle part and parcel of life be that there are those in this world, in the true sense of natural law, who've got the right to kill you for what you did to theirs, you could be a good pimp. But it's like, if you come to a vicious, violent end, you had it coming. It was just an inevitability. It's like the pimp who walks away is probably someone who could change his identity, change his name, go to a different country that spoke the same language, get married, and operate like a spy, who's quit. Leave the pimp life, leave the name behind. It's a familiar racket. One thing that he's got an edge on, right, as to where he gets people in, is that he gives the game away a bit as well, doesn't he? He teaches some sort of deep truths from time to time. And it's like throwing out the odd gem. We're all capable of it. Every last one of us. All you need to be doing is broadcasting to throw out the odd gem, because we all do it. But I'd say, in a world where, right, anonymous, unknown people can get it around the internet that a guy, we don't know nothing about this guy, so, the guy who used to be the top fella at Twitter, it gets around Twitter real quick that he's been arrested, possession of child pornography. When you got people who, when that turns out not to be true, and that be someone's idea of funny, right? And be someone's idea of satire, right? That's not funny. That's a completely deliberate act that's counting on a reaction and a repercussion to actually lay in the second part of its plan. The feedback being part of it. You don't set off a machination like that without understanding that there will be a repercussion, and it's like the smarter you are, the more likely you are to have worked the repercussion into your machination. So it's like, these are really dangerous people at play. Just because the thing is with it, it's like it only takes someone willing to lie like that for that to happen. So that's how, when people, this is a thing that I like to point to. Nobody ever wants me to have a conversation with me about free speech. I'd love to have a conversation about free speech, to say there are certain things that might get you killed that you could openly say. It's like, I'm not against them, but it's like, you need to be aware as to where there are things that people can say that do go over and beyond the limits of what we would call legal free speech. And, at this moment, the best example I can come across is these guys on this fake website who've just flat out lied and defamed someone deliberately to poison the well and to muddy the water and to call it satire, and then be sat behind it saying, oh, well, if you don't get the joke, it's you's got a problem. Who else do we know who operates like that? It's like we're in the age now as to where we're dealing with the super narcs of chaos have arrived, right? In thinking about things in terms of manipulation, chaos, right? When everyone gets as smart as I am, who wants to play games like that, it's like, they bring this fucking country to a standstill. Are you willing to lie? It's like, what are they willing to lie about next? Oh, we're gonna bomb threat every airport in the country. What? It's like we're, I'd say, probably hours away from swatting, that kind of activity, to reach a higher level. And then when we talk about swatting, we really have to, and I haven't put any attention to it, so these people who go after Tim Pool, how come the police haven't got any kind of reading on who they might be, given what the world is and the level of technology that's available? Saying that, the swatting oneself, right? Swatting oneself. Now that is a trick, isn't it? I've caught people wrong swatting themselves before, and it'd be, no one would believe it true, and that's why it's such a good trick. When the world's full of people who start thinking and acting like that, playing games like that, things have just changed. Things have just changed. Because now it's going to be a matter of lots of that, probably a bombardment of that. It's like just flat out lies and call it satire. We've had this before. We've seen it before, but it's like at this moment in time, it's not really the right time to be playing gotcha. It's like the reactions won't be what the reactions were before. The reactions are going to be what the reactions are now. And it's like you've got so many people now who are able to read right through gaslighting as to where, oh, this is a deliberate act of skullduggery. This is dirty deeds done dirt cheap. This is, oh yeah, I can stir the pot for you. Why not start deliberately provoking people, deliberately gaslighting? How about start writing obituaries for people you fucking hate, who you want dead, and leaking it online that the person's dead? And you get to be the one that lays the story in first, as to say, arch scumbag bollocks, not even dead. It happens. You get games like that played all the time on the internet. You get dickheads on the internet who fake their own deaths. Idiots who fake their own deaths on the internet and have just gone offline but left it open as to whether they might kill themselves. So people do that. And it's like that level of malice, maliciousness, strategic thinking is so dangerous. It's like that mind set in motion can bring down any organisation that relies upon truth to work effectively. It's like when people like that make an enemy of the government. Or start using or actually, as it's gone, made the government capitulate to their will and then use the government as an extension of their imagined power. Imagine how fucking amazing you'd feel if you were somebody who just hated Tim Pool. Anyway, it needs to stop. Right, call the cops. Yeah, there's this guy on the internet. He's got weapons. What? You sit back and you're like, you see, like, you can't understand it, can't you, boys and girls, that there are those in the world who get off on that and be running their mouth about it as to, hey, when I pull the strings, the world reacts. The world responds to my power. It's like small minds do things like that and think they are the shit. It's like all shapes and sizes, man. But it's like when Crazy Town finally arrives, it will dawn that the bad guys will tell any lie about anything at any given time and blame anyone they feel they have to, just to live to fight another day. and then they'll carry on. And in the end, they always get away with it because they just continue. Oh, now you've done this. We didn't have time to catch up the last cunt thing you did, and now you've done something again. And it'd be, all right, now we have to deal with the new mess. We have to deal with the new business while you just carry on. Big collective dumb narcissist who's also a fucking genius, who can talk himself out of any trouble, who can tell any lie, he can hold his face when he can hold himself 100% straight when he's telling you the biggest fucking pack of lies that anyone's ever come up with. And when he tell a story, it'd be a rip fucking roaring yarn, and he remembers all the names of the fictitious people that he's going to reference as witness, who aren't there. Like, beware the fucking storyteller, I'll tell you. Because if there's a pattern of that, just flat smearing, it's like, where does that, when and where does that stop? And the answer is, well, it doesn't, does it?